Chapter 2 continues the adventure. Now, this is a journey that effectively Nick takes with Tom to see Myrtle, who is Tom's other woman. And it's interesting, it shows character development, but it also gives you a greater sense of 1920s New York. In particular, he talks about the bleak dust and the giant face of Dr. Chi J. Eckelberg. Now, Eckelberg is one of these characters who a lot of people seem to remember from the book, who's obviously not necessarily a character as such, but he's just a picture. It starts off quite interesting because Myrtle's not some high class aristocracy woman. She lives off a train. She lives in a siding, and if you've watched the film with Leonardo DiCaprio and Carey Mulligan, she lives kind of near the tracks and near a road. So it's interesting to say the least. George Wilson is the man who is effectively her husband. Now, Tom's character is again shown here as he kind of insults him. He says he's quite stupid. They're not only just having an affair, but they're also betraying Wilson at the same time because he believes that she's not, and he still loves her, which is kind of sad in many ways. And so the excuse is that he's taking Myrtle to see her mum, but really what they're doing is they're going out and having a party, effectively. She changes the dress and then they head off. But it's interesting to see how Tom's bedside manner changes for the first part of the chapter compared to when he's with Daisy. He's a lot less abrupt, but he's also a lot nicer. I mean, Myrtle makes a comment about wanting a dog, and she only wants money for one dog, but he gives her money for 10 dogs to give you a sense of kind of how much he likes her and also how much he wants to spend money on her. And they kind of get drunk at this apartment that Tom seems to have, or should I say Wilson also has. And it's not something he particularly wants to do, but also, as mentioned earlier in the chapter, Tom is seemingly an incredibly forceful character. There's also Mr. McKee, and they kind of just have a party and they talk, and that's the main things that happen. But it gives a sense of what Tom does when he's not around with Daisy. And this has a contrast between this kind of vibrant, exciting life to this life that's a lot more dull with Daisy, which is, again, sad, but also is kind of contrast again with Gatsby's exciting life. And all Gatsby, to a certain degree, wants is quiet. And there you kind of get Tom and Gatsby, who will become two kind of polar opposite characters who want different things, which is interesting. Again, Gatsby is mentioned from Catherine, who's Myrtle's sister. And again, the mystery of Gatsby is further explored because everybody seems to know him, and yet Nick doesn't. And Nick's the person who really should because he's his neighbour. And this is one of the other important bits. And you see that Myrtle doesn't like Wilson, and this will lead to greater trouble later in the book. And Tom is lying, obviously, that Daisy doesn't want a divorce when Daisy, she probably doesn't, but it's an interesting lie to just try and persuade Myrtle of why he doesn't want to properly commit effectively. And then they argue about why Myrtle married Wilson, and it goes kind of ugly, especially as Myrtle regrets marrying him, which is something that will come across later about people regretting marrying and people regretting a lot of things, which is just wrong in many ways. Also, Tom is kind of shown to be a more brutal character, especially when he hits Myrtle for mentioning Daisy's name, and that kind of shows again the more thuggish side of his character. And although he's dressed up in all these nice clothes, he can't really hide his true nature, which is, again, puts him in contrast to Gatsby, and more about this contrast will be explained later on. Thank you for listening.